Welcome to the JS Self Care Mind, Body, and Soul podcast. I am your host, Janelle. Today's Journey to Self Care special guest is Engreath from Abused, Broken, but Chosen. Engreath, can you please tell us about your journey to self care and also tell the listeners how they could contact you if they need your assistance?
Absolutely. Thank you first, Janelle, for having me. It is my pleasure to be here to share my journey to recovery and and self-care. So my journey,
Thank you. Thank you.
you're welcome. My journey actually started when I was 9. And I know people are probably wondering how do you start in recovery at 9? Well, actually the journey started when I was 9 years old. And trigger warning, I got raped by a family friend. And so what that did was that didn't get healed. Nobody took care of this child. Nobody asked, was I okay? My grandmother did get a little justice as much as you could get for someone in the 70s. And so
Mm.
for someone who was Black, because Judge Thomas Pugh said we were ghetto children and we got what we deserved. But my grandmother, you didn't know her, she was quite pursuing. And so she got him, he did 6 years. He was 18 and I was a 9-year-old girl. So nobody ever thought to get me help. Nobody ever talked about it again. So at 9, my childhood, it's over with. I don't see the world the same anymore. My world had been disrupted. And so that led for some reason, my stepfather just thought, I guess he thought it was okay. He, started molesting me when I was 10, from the ages of 10 to 14. And in between that time, in between that dash, there was another rape attempt and another rape. And then a sodomy by my blood uncle. So it was a combination of traumas for 5 years. One right after the other, and none of them getting healed. So it was just continuing to happen, and nothing was happening for me as far as recovery, as far as not even being able to talk with my grandmother about it. And I'm assuming that because back then in our culture, the African American culture, it is not talked about. You don't talk about it. Whatever goes on in the home stays in the home. And we know what that looks like now, because the world is full of people who kept it in the home. The world is full of people who didn't talk about it. The world is full of people who did not get help that they needed at the time that this was happening. So what that ended up looking like for me was one nervous breakdown after another, which was two. It was 4 suicide attempts. And it left a hole inside of me the size of a cannonball. I was so empty. It was one horrific relationship after another one, trying to fill that void inside. And so for 20 years, 1974 to 1984, by the time I had had my second child, I had birthed both my children in pain. I birthed my children in pain, and I'm not just talking about labor pain. I'm talking about that pain that's inside from all of that trauma. And even going off to college at 22 and being raped in college and then coming home because I didn't have a voice back then. Nobody was hearing me. They sent my rapist home for 1 semester. No legal action, and still no help for me for all of the trauma. I was 22 years old when I first started talking about the 9-year-old rape. So can you imagine, from age 9 to 22 and
Wow.
all of the trauma that happened? And so when I had my first son, 4 years after I had him, right after I came home on break from college, I had a nervous breakdown. And it was one suicide attempt after another. It was one broken, bad, horrific relationship after another because I was trying to feel something inside of me. And I couldn't feel it with not one man I was involved with. I couldn't feel it with the people that I was trying to buy friendship from. I couldn't feel it with trying to show up to look like the world say I needed to show up. I was a hot, broken, jacked up mess. And there was no care for me. I didn't even consider me in any situation. Nobody thought about me, and I didn't know how to think about me. I didn't know how to care about me. And so it would be at the birth of my second son. I was 29, and let me tell you, I was 25. I'm sorry, I was 25. Let me tell you, that was horrific because I birthed him not only in mental and emotional trauma, but my body took on fibroid cyst. And so I had to be hospitalized. He was supposed to be born in April, and they had to take him in February. And what they did was gave me a psychiatric staff nurse. I stayed in the hospital 18 days because I had then been diagnosed with PTSD.
Mm.
Let me go back when my oldest son was 8 months. I went to my aunt's house, and I was 19 going on 20 with all that broken trauma inside of me. And I went to my aunt's house, and she was next door. She said, I'll be right next door. Y'all can just be here. Y'all can stay here until I come back. And I left my son there with nobody was in the house. I left a note. I didn't know at that time that I was going through PTSD. And I do thank God that I didn't have a worst case scenario where some mothers with PTSD killed their children to protect them from this world or from whatever they're going through. As my therapist shared with me, but my case wasn't that. I left him because I couldn't deal with I couldn't deal with motherhood.
Wow.
I could not deal with it. So and then when I returned home, I had a nervous breakdown, and he was 2. I was my first nervous breakdown. They had to kick my mother's bathroom door in, and I was cowered in the corner by the toilet with my hair in my hand. And so that was my first trip to the mental health hospital. And it would be one more for a nervous breakdown and then 4 more for suicide attempts. But the thing is, nothing was being healed.
Still
It
through
was
all of this, no one tried to heal you.
nobody. I'm
I am
melodramatic.
so sorry.
My aunt tried to have me locked up because I kept running away. Yes, she had tried to. When I went to tell the people at juvenile detention about
Uh-huh.
what was going on, she told them I was melodramatic.
Whoa. Nobody believed you. I am so sorry that happened to you, Ingrid.
And the thing about it, Janelle, is my story is like so many of your listeners.
Absolutely.
It's like so many of your listeners. And so what I need people to understand is that you have to understand that you have got to stop covering this stuff up. The
Mm-hmm.
world is full of people who they bleed they 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 bleed on people who did not cut them.
Mm-hmm.
They are spilling over into all of that hurt and all of that pain is spilling over into people who are in your space trying to provide something good for you, but because of the trauma that you went through and still going through because you haven't healed from it, you're cutting that person. That person didn't do anything but show up for you the way that they were supposed to.
Absolutely.
And so to say what I took my children through is an understatement, because I put them in situations that no child should ever have to be put in. When you are in a domestic violence relationship and your children are watching that, you are damaging your children. I just recently did a therapy with both of my sons, where we had started working on some therapy with us, as my therapist said, talking about it and working through it. And what that looked like on this end part was me standing toe to toe, and both of my sons are taller than me. I'm 5'9", and both of them are taller than me, and looking my children straight in the eyes and telling them I was wrong. I apologize to them for having them stand in a space that no child should have to stand in, by making a decision to be with somebody that was beating the hell out of me, and having them there. And then, as boys do with their mothers, they will try to protect her to the end.
Absolutely.
And I had to stand there with my sons, both of them individually, and apologize for the way I showed up for them. And that was a part of my healing process with my children. And so I was dating somebody. This was 97, I want to say. I was dating somebody who was dealing drugs. And of course, he was abusive. The money was good. He looked good. And I had a hole inside of me from being empty. So we know what that combination ended up being like. I'm talking about the first time I'm sitting braiding his hair, and we were watching a game. And me, I get loud. I talk loud. I'm excitable. And so, and when it comes to sports, definitely when it comes to sports. So I hollered, and he slapped me. Don't effing holler in my ear. And I jumped up, because that was the first time. I hadn't known it before then. The ones before him were just garbage, as far as the way they treated me in sleeping with me and having me as a girlfriend, and then supposed to be my friend, and so that type of thing. But I had never had one up until that point put their hands on me.
Wow, I'm sorry.
And so when he slapped me, I had a 2-bedroom townhouse. So I ran downstairs, because I was trying to run to go to the payphone to call the police. And he caught me. Nobody outside would help me. And he drugged me back inside. I couldn't go to work. He called in for me. I couldn't go outside for 4 days because my face was purple, and my arms and my back. He brutally beat the hell out of me. And so I started selling after I figured out that my income, I could enhance my income and not need to deal with him and his foolishness, I thought. And so here we go. We gonna test the product, because he said, why don't you try this, Primo? And I did. And euphoria turned to disaster. What you do to yourself for that first high, what you do to your family, what you do to your children. When you do those things, the way that you show up, you are walking dead. But, and when you say but erases.
You're right.
But
Say it.
erases. But erases. So I did that for 4 years. And every Friday I'm at my mother's because I had walked away. This was the thing. I had walked away from him, even though he threatened to kill me. I had walked away from him. And I was high, and it didn't matter. I didn't care.
Mhm.
He could have killed me. It wouldn't have mattered at that time. But God said something different because he went to shooting up in his vein, and that scared me.
Mhm.
And we were in this hotel one night, and this was what made me leave him. We were in this hotel on a Friday, and I didn't leave out of there till Tuesday when he finally went to sleep. He wasn't going to let me leave there.
Mhm.
That was nothing but the grace of God. I'm
Amen.
telling you, that's nothing but the grace of God. And so I thought I had a hold of it because I was functioning. I was
Mm.
going to work. I was taking care of my kids. I was buying my kids whatever they wanted. And you call that love. I'm breaking my mama off. And you call that love. And every chance I got, I sell a little, I smoke a lot. I sell a little bit more, I smoke a lot.
Wow.
And that went on for 4 years. And that dragon, I was chasing it, then it grabbed a hold of me and it did not let go for 4 years. It almost cost me my life several times. Because see, what people don't are ashamed to deal with and they fall into the feeling guilty about it is what you do to get that drug.
Mhm.
The things that you do to chase that high, the things that you do, the places you go. And the thing for me was I was in I was in a space. It was an apartment, kind of run down, and I was sitting up at the top, and I was there with somebody who was a suspected serial killer, and I didn't know it, but God knew.
God. I was going to say, but God.
hmm God knew. God knew. And so when I left out of there, I ran, and I ran straight into Ricky Lofton. Ricky Snake Lofton. That was
Mm.
that one. That was that one that almost killed me. That he was the second one that almost killed me. This one was horrible. I'm talking about. He, if I didn't make money enough for him to put in his own, I would be beat and my face would be purple and black, as dark as I am.
Mm. He had a heroin problem.
Uh-huh. And I didn't know anything about heroin at that time. I
Mm.
just didn't. I just, it, cocaine was the thing and crack was the thing. We didn't know anything about, that hard of a drug, but I'm gonna tell
Mhm.
you, he was a monster. He had these two big rings. One of them, I was the one and gave him one that had diamonds in it. And that's the hand he beat me with. That's the fist that he would beat me with. And he came, when I left him, he came to my mother's, but I wasn't there. He was trying to find me, and I was right in his eyesight. He couldn't see me. But God didn't intend for him to see me
Mhm.
because he was so horrific till a lady that I know came by looking for me when I wasn't there. And then I came home. And it took him, you didn't have a key to his house. So that wouldn't happen. And he was only the second man I had ever lived with. I had always had my own house. Always. And so he he took forever to open the door. So when he finally opened it, he was like, "Bitch, you knocking on my door like that for?" He grabbed me in the house and pushed me in the bathroom. She's sitting on the bed getting dressed and slammed my face into the mirror.
Mm.
And so I knew then that he was going to kill me. And so I was getting tired at that point of being beat. I was getting tired of the life. I was getting tired of it all. So that was in February of 2000. Yeah, February of 2000. February of 2001. And so February 2001, that happened. Then the day after my birthday, March 28th of that same year, I had decided to leave, but I had to go upstairs to his friend's house to get my clothes because he had threw them out. And so when I went back to get him, I thought he was at work, but he had lost his job and I didn't know it. And he dashed out of his house and tried to drag me in that house. And that was the moment I decided it's either fight or either I'm going in that house and die. I'm still here.
Amen.
And he was a muscular somebody. I'm talking about muscle from his neck, his brow, muscle built. So when he would hit me, he would hurt me. But I say again, it wasn't nothing but the grace of God
That's
that
right.
that got me through that, because I was down on the concrete and he pulling me, trying to get me in his house. No,
And nobody helped you?
nobody. But he had me by my legs and I'm kicking. When he let go my legs and I kicked him in his private area as hard as I could, the person who took me over there then came and took me, had my arm and put me in his van and we drove off. That's how I got away from him.
I
And
must say I'm happy you got away from him.
oh, not
Because that's
oh,
why you're here today, to tell your
yes,
story.
yes. And so it would be that July the 1st of that same year, I would get shot.
Wow.
I was in a car with somebody. I was taking them to my dealer who I would buy my supply from that I'm gonna sell.
Mm-hmm.
Not knowing that he's going to rip my dealer off, not knowing that my dealer is crazy. You shot him $2, he will shoot you.
Mm.
So he come on the strength of me. He dealing with him on the strength of me. So when we pull up to the spot, I tell him what I introduce him and I tell him what he want. He go and give it to him. He drives off.
Wow.
I'm like, you about to get us killed. My heart, I start having heart palpitations because I seen this guy beat somebody
Mm-hmm.
with his bare hands. And he always had a gun with him. Didn't go nowhere without it. So all of a sudden I hear pop, 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 pop. Get this part. The back driver side window didn't get one bullet. And
What?
the back driver side window
Mm.
didn't get one bullet. The only bullets was in there was the side out, the passenger side. That's where the bullets were going through. And as I put my hand up to put my head down, the bullet went in my hand. And it's in my hand to this day. And because he dropped it in my lap, and my purse was open, it went down in my purse, and he telling me to give it to him. I'm telling him, get me to a hospital. You can have it. I don't want it, but you're
Mm.
going to get me to a hospital. He wouldn't get me to a hospital. I put that car in park. with it running and jumped out and left. And I went. It was a store not too far, maybe about a block and a half from where I pulled that car up and left. And I walked, but I didn't. I was started. I was cold, but it was summertime, but I was
Mm-hmm.
cold. And so when I got to the store, it was a police officer standing out there, and he asking me, I'm like, I need to use the phone because I've been shot. And he asking me 99 and 100
Mm-hmm.
questions. And all I did was lean up against the thing where they have ice, where you pull ice, and
Yep.
I slid down right there. That's
Wow.
where I slid. And the next thing I know, I woke up and I was in the hospital. And that was July the 1st, 2001. July the 2nd, I was back out there. And I called my mother and asked her, could I come home? And she told me no,
Mm.
because I needed to clean up my life before I did.
Where were your children at
They
this
were
point?
they were with my mother.
Okay.
They were always with her.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the part right here. That was called tough love.
Yep.
A tear ran down my eye,
Mm-hmm.
but that tough love helped save my life, because 9 days after that, I went to prison. And I actually went to prison for a probation violation because I didn't go back and see my probation officer.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge, when I first got arrested, because I was with some other ladies, and that situation was, she was the girl sugar daddy rented a room for her, and I went to sell her some drugs, but I was over there gambling across the street at the truck stop because I loved to gamble back then. So I would go back and forth as she would call me. I would go back over there, take her some
Mm-hmm.
until she bought everything I had. And so, she buying, I'm gambling, I'm feeling like I'm on top of the world.
Girl. Right.
I'm not really trying to smoke nothing, because I'm really trying to make some money, because it's coming close to Friday, and I want to make sure I got what I got for my kids. Honey, it was three knocks in that motel office, and I didn't know she had ripped the guy off, and they had her phone bugged.
Mm.
So when I went back after I finished gambling, I had won about $200. I went to use the phone, and the phone, when you pick it up, it's clicking. I'm like, Arlene, what's wrong with your phone? She's like, girl, I don't know. And so,
Mm-hmm.
but when I passed there, it was three knocks in the office, and one of them stepped out. He asked me, did I party? And I was like, no, I don't party. And the reason why I said that, because I knew he was a narc.
Right.
So no, I absolutely do not. So I went back around there, and then I went. That was the first time when I went to take her something back over there, and I went back and gambled. And when I came back, he asked me again. And I told him no. So the third time I go back over there to the truck stop, and that's when I done won the $200. So now I'm coming back. I'm ready for my boy Jonathan to come across here and get me. But so I can go back, because it was a river you have to cross to go over there. I'm like, I'm ready to go. I didn't I did good. I did good
Good.
up her, and I did even better at the over there at Video Poker. So
Mm-hmm.
I called him, pick up the phone to call him. And as I'm going back to use her phone, I passed by, you have to pass by the room. So one of the detectives that was in the office, he's sitting in a hotel room, get this, with the door open watching porn.
Whoa. Mm-hmm.
Who does that but a trap?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm telling Arlene, I'm like, don't. When I got in her room, I was like, if anybody knock on your door, if it's three guys, Arlene, don't answer your door. I said, don't answer the door. I said, they got three narcs in the lobby. I said, don't answer that door. Tell me why this chick answered that door anyway. In her bra and underwear.
Whoa.
I promise you. And
Mm-hmm.
The white girl in there named Heather. I'm like, this dumb. I can't even say on your show. I
No,
said,
you can say it. You can
I
say it. My
said
show.
this. I said this dumb motherfucker.
That's
That's
right.
God forgive me for cursing, but that's exactly what I said.
Yeah, God knows. That's
And
right.
so, I'm leaning against the desk, and so, the tall one, blonde headed one, asked Arlene, "Do she party?" And she like, "Yeah." So the other one, not the Creole one, shorted, but the other guy, I think his name was Marigo or Marigo and something like that. He asked Heather, he's like, "Do you party?" Heather was like, "Yeah." I just put my head down and shook my head because I know we about to go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
So when Shorty asked me, "Do I party?" I told him, "Hell no." Didn't I just tell you I don't party? I told him, I said, "I just saw you in the parking lot and I just answered your question." I say, my words were, "My answer have not changed." Those were my words to him. So I go in the bathroom and put the toilet down and sit on the toilet. And he comes in the bathroom. He said, "You sure you don't want to party?" I say, "I told you I don't fucking party." This
Mm-hmm.
is how I was talking.
Yeah,
Because at that time I'm pissed off because who wants to go to jail?
exactly.
So that's exactly what I said. I'm disgusted. I have no way out because I'm knowing if I try to get up and leave, they know it's over with.
Yep. They're gonna say you running.
Right. So I sit there, I let them finish talking to them. And soon as he whipped that money out, put it in her hand, he said, "Y'all under arrest." I say, "I told you." I come out the bathroom. I say, "I told your dumb ass that."
Don't open the door.
And she asked this man, "Can I hit my pipe before I go to jail?"
What?
I promise you. I promise you. I just looked at her like I could have went through her.
Mm-hmm.
I promise you. That was, yeah, yeah. And so now remember I had just called my mama on the second and asked her
Yeah.
to come home. And she told me no. And then here I am on the ninth.
Getting
I'm
arrested.
Oh my God. And I went to jail. Oh God. And that was where my experience with God came in. And that was where
Wow.
the change came in.
So on the ninth day, you
Mm-hmm.
changed your life.
Oh my God. What a change. And I'm gonna tell you how good it was. I'm gonna tell you how good God was to me. My mother had already told us when we were children, if we go to jail for anything other than defending ourselves, we will sit there.
Mm-hmm. My mother said the same thing to us too.
I'm not coming get you. I knew not to call her. I would call her and tell her where I was at, but I wasn't finna call her and ask her for anything. Wasn't gonna do it. However I got it, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
That was my attitude. But let me tell you what God did for me. So we went out on the yard to go in the field and work. And a girl named Samantha was dating a guy, and his roomie saw me. Well, he didn't see me, he saw my butt. And he sent me a letter in her letter from a boyfriend. And from the time I started writing him, I didn't want for anything.
Wow.
That man, what gave me understanding of the word of God, understanding, he would go over scripture with me,
Mm.
and he took care of me. Of course, it cost me something because that residue still was showing up. That prostitution still was showing up. That
Mm.
residue, because I would have to write him those letters
Mm-hmm.
that get him off.
Mm.
And I had a vivid imagination coming from that world. My imagination, yeah, you gonna feel like you're right there in it.
Mm.
And he did.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as I wrote those letters, he took care of me.
He took care
Because
of you in jail.
yes, he did. Yes, he did. He gave me soul for my food, but then I gave him something in return.
Yeah.
And so they He even managed to get me 40 cash dollars. You know, you ain't supposed to have no money on you. He was a
Mm-hmm.
trustee, but he managed, we was cool with a deputy, and he managed to get me 40 cash dollars so I would have some money when I leave there in my pocket.
Mm.
hmm And so when I got my 17 months, and for 15 of the 17 months, the first thing I did July the 9th, 2001 is I told God, if you take this taste from me, I will never turn back to it again.
Amen.
That's been 21 years that's been 20 years. This past July 9th, I just celebrated a 20-year anniversary.
Congrats. So,
Yeah.
Ingrid,
Yes.
you didn't go through no 12-step program, none of it. You
Mm-mm.
went straight through God.
Yes. I promise you.
Amen.
I promise you. And you know something else? It goes to how bad do you want to live? Because if you continue doing that, you're going to die in that.
That's right.
And you know what kept me? My thing was I couldn't do it day by day. It wasn't a one day at a time for me. It was 1 second. I had to take the smallest baby steps to get
Mm.
there. But I fought with myself because I wanted this life I knew I deserved. And I was fighting with that unhealed part of my life. So I had to seek therapy. And I had a spiritual coach, and
Mm.
I had a psychologist that I would see and talk about this stuff. Because yes, I'm a woman of God, but at the same time, God gives us therapists to help us navigate through the stuff that we can.
Whoa. Speak it.
You know, too many times people want to say, well, just pray about it. No,
Mm-hmm.
no. God said faith without works is dead. You praying
Ooh.
about a situation that you are ill equipped to handle, and God's giving you an avenue, but you won't take the avenue. You rather take the detour.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take the avenue.
That's
I'm a
right.
living witness that it works. I got a support group for that trauma. And I would drive almost an hour every Tuesday for 6 weeks to my support group.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took a freedom class in my church that helped deal with some stuff from the past. But let me tell you the thing that got me to the content part of life. Because
Yes.
in all that trauma, I kept running state to another, trying to be content. And you know what finally got it? It was 22 letters of forgiveness I had to write.
Whoa.
I had to stop carrying them people with me.
Mm-hmm.
See, and the thing about it, Janelle, is that
Ooh.
people, I'm gonna explain it to you like this, okay? Say somebody does you something that's horrific, and being
Mm-hmm.
raped as a child is horrific. That's 100-pound weight.
Yep.
So it doesn't get healed. So you bag it, you carry it on, you put it in your backpack, and you move on to the next trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now this trauma is 120 pounds. So you're gonna put that in your backpack and try to move and navigate in life with that. And so as you get older, you still that child, but you carrying 2, 3, 400 pounds of weight,
Of dead weight.
dead weight,
Mm-hmm.
triple time the size of you. And you think you're gonna be content, you think you're gonna be happy, you still heavy.
That's
You got to
right.
unload that stuff. And that's where the therapists come in. They help us unload that stuff. And so when I wrote, and it was actually my therapist.
Who
It was
told you
one
to
of
write those letters?
it was one of my therapists.
Yep.
My niece is a therapist, and then it was my therapist. And both of them told me the same thing at different times.
Mm-hmm.
Write the letters. Even if you don't send them, even if you burn them, write the letters. And
Yep.
as I started writing, when I got to that last letter, it took me 2 days to write it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I cried for 2 days. I laid on my couch in my den and I said, God, I am content.
Amen.
The weight had been lifted off of me. all that trauma. It wasn't an easy fix, and it wasn't an instant fix. Nothing is. Nothing worth having is easy or instant.
That's
But
right.
the thing about it is you have to decide how bad do you want to live or how easy are you going to die.
Mm.
That fight is up to you and it's in you.
Yes, it is.
See, it's greater inside of you than it's outside of you. But you decide. You make the decision. Because if you don't, nobody can make the decision for you. I went to 4
Amen.
rehabs. I went to 4. Did one time for my mama, one time, 2 times for my children, and one time because somebody said something ugly to me.
Mm-hmm.
Not one time did I do it to get myself clean and sober. But when I finally made the decision, I didn't even have to go.
Yep.
I went to the source, and then he outsourced me what I needed to get to finish what he had started. And
Yes.
so it is absolutely possible. It is not just possible to do it. You can do this, but it's the decision has to be made by the individual. Mama can't make it for you. Daddy
Thank you.
can't make it for you. Your children can't make it for you. Your parents can't make it for you. If you don't make the decision that you want to live and not die, you will surely die in that thing. You're going to die in it because you make the decision to live in it.
Yep.
And when
So
you
true.
make the decision to live in it, you don't care about nothing but it. That dragon gonna eat you alive.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. Is that the birth of abused, broken, but chosen?
Abused, broken, but chosen. That's what it is. Because I was abused and I was broken in it. But God chose me.
Absolutely.
God chose me.
Ingrid, how are you now helping others
Okay, so
with their struggles? Because I'm telling you, um, I must say this on the podcast. When I lost my dad,
uh-huh.
and I said it was substance abuse, he died of an overdose. When I say you took care of me, you was 100 miles away, hundreds of miles away, and you checked on me, and I
Yes.
truly, truly thank you, because you knew that struggle.
Yeah.
I was your kid, yeah,
Yeah.
right, and
Yes.
that's why I birthed
Absolutely.
becoming an advocate for parental substance abuse, because
Yes.
us children go through stuff too. We may
Oh
not
my.
have used, but
Woo.
that most definitely comes with, we come broken now.
Yes.
Abuse. It doesn't
Yes.
always have to be physical abuse. I mean, you put your children with your mother.
Yeah.
We
But
were
they
with my
wanted
mother.
me. They
Yeah,
wanted me. They
yeah,
love my mother, but they wanted their mother.
absolutely.
And
And one,
so, yes,
and I earned for my mother and father, and I know you earned for your mother. Like, what we would
yes.
do to just have them back just for one day. I
Oh
know I would have my mother in the kitchen cooking.
my. I would just talk to mine and have some coffee. Because
Yeah,
that
I
was
would
the thing we
love her
did.
cooking.
That was the thing we did. We had coffee and great conversation.
Wow.
Yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
where are we going with abused and broken?
So
We,
October 1st is launch day for my website, Abused, Broken, but Chosen. But I have a number that's actually attached, a working number that's actually attached to Abused, Broken, but Chosen. And not only that, I do check-ins every Saturday. And if people need me to check in them on them more than I have 3 ladies right now. Every Saturday I do a sister check-in on them
can you give
because
us that number if
I
someone was to
absolutely
call it?
will. Absolutely. It is 984-977-0227. I repeat it again. 984-977-0227. And I also have a book uh will be out this year. It's called The Bullet That Saved Me. It's about
Wow.
yeah, it's a little bit more in detail about
Yes.
Yes, and it
And we would
actually,
love to purchase your book. We would
absolutely,
love to purchase your book.
absolutely. I am so grateful for the opportunity that you extended me, Janelle. That I'm just prayerful that somebody's ear gate will hear it, somebody's heart and mind will be open to the hope that they can get through this. I promise you, I know the misery. I know they don't want to be in that situation. I know the hurt and the pain. And I'll say this till I close my eyes. Every addictive person, there's a core thing. It's the addiction is the addiction. There is a core thing that caused them to go to the addiction because nobody wakes up. Is a child that says, I'm gonna grow up and become an addict.
That's right.
Nobody. There is something there that is so painful, they would rather be in a life that would cause them death instead of deal with that pain. Until you deal with that pain, you will remain in that thing. You got to deal with it. I know it's hard. I know it's hard. I was in a space for 42 years. So I know it's hard. But there is help, there is hope, and there is life after addiction. I promise you, I'm living a great life. I I won't say every day is just a great grand, okay.
Right.
But guess what? I would rather have a bad day on this side than a good day in that struggle.
Amen. So many people listening to this podcast. There are so many people who are bruised, broken. But Ingrid is here to tell you that you're not only abused and broken, you are also chosen. Thank you, Ingrid, for sharing your story. Can you please give us some of your social media handles? What are you all on?
Absolutely. Absolutely. On Facebook, I am Engreath Scharnett. Engreath. Scharnett. Scharnett. On Instagram, I am Scharnett Engreath. Scharnett. And I will tell you this also, guys. On September 18th in Atlanta, Georgia, at Fish Market, I'll be telling my story again with Focus and Align, Lens of Faith. And so tune in. We should be live on Facebook as well. And I need to say this one thing
Yes,
to
please.
your listening audience. When you show up, you showed up in this world. You're here, you're listening. The world is a better place because of you. But when you show up as your whole, healed, true, authentic self, the world is even greater because a greater version of you decided to show up.
Amen. Thank you, Mama Ingrid. And I will make sure that I put her phone number in these show notes. And I will also put
Absolutely.
her Instagram and Facebook so you guys can follow her path, because her path, her journey to self-care is like no other journey to self-care. And we want everyone to join us on our journey to self-care. Thank you, Ingrid. You are the best.
You are so welcome, my girl. I love you for life.
Love you too.
You have a wonderful evening.